Hey, good evening, everybody. Tomorrow's Mother's Day. I am the mom of 5. Yes, I am. 4 that I started out with and 1 that I added along the way. And I had a plan for tonight that was a little different from what it's actually going to turn out to be. Because I got tagged in a post late in the day today. And that post was about a little girl who's age 12. And her name is Kaylee Rios, known as the Warrior Princess. She's at CHKD right now. And she is a warrior princess. She is battling neuroblastoma, stage 4, high-risk pediatric cancer. And she's in what some people call an angel fight. I'm going to call it a leaf in the wind situation. So rather than continue on the path I was on for tonight, tonight is dedicated completely to this warrior princess. I'm going to be rereading 2 fables, which she hasn't heard. And I'm going to ask everybody who's watching, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it on YouTube, wherever you're seeing this video, to please consider making a donation. It's in, the link is Cure for Kaylee at Hotmail. It's in the description for this video. Any amount. Because the post that I was tagged in was saying that she would really like to see her grandmother. Her grandmother's in Oregon. And there's not a lot of time right now to get her here. And a commercial flight is just too great a health risk for her grandmother. So they're looking for someone with a private jet or to fundraise to be able to pay for a private flight on a commercial airline. They're looking into that to get a grandmother here. So if you know somebody with a jet, and I know that I know people who are watching tonight who do, hit me in the direct message, okay? DM me. Everybody else, and y'all included, please consider donating. So tonight, for the Warrior Princess, we're going to go back to Chandra, the Chandra's Change, because this is my favorite empowerment fable that I've ever written. And it's the book's cover fable. So, Kaylee, these are for you. Looking down at the branches of the tree, one could see many shades and colors, but what one could not see was the chameleon, perched on the branch and sitting perfectly still. I will blend, she thought. In her mind, she repeated, one with the branch, one with the tree, sit very still, and they won't see me. And so it was that Chandra the chameleon spent her days and nights. When she did move, it was always a calculated risk. Her movements were slow and deliberate. One long toe at a time would uncurl from the branch, and then she would flow to the next spot on the tree and freeze. To blend in with the tree meant safety to Chandra. Being different or standing out could mean death. A bird or a snake or other animal could spot her too easily and consume her, and so her colors changed. To a chameleon, it was imperative to feel oneness with the surroundings. She had not only to think of the color green, but she had to imagine how green must feel in order to assume its hue. Green, she thought. Okay. Green is unripe, new, fresh, honest is green. And so she'd be green. Yellow, she thought. Yellow is joy, bright, sunny, warm is yellow. And so she would become yellow. And moment to moment, Chandra would move and freeze and change to fit her tree. It was an oppressive afternoon in the rainforest where her tree grew. The leaves of the canopy were still, for they lacked a breeze to stir them. Birds called. Moisture dripped to the ground. Chandra peered from her branch. One eye looked up, the other looked down. It all happened so quickly that later she would be tempted to believe that she'd imagined it. 2 apes swinging from vine to vine landed right in front of her. One was in a terrible state. Oh, she was puffing and shrieking, and the larger, a male, was coiled to attack. Chandra recognized him as Tarak, king of the apes. Spare me! Spare me! The lady ape begged, let me go. But Tarak beat her with a stout branch that he held. I do what I please, little Miss Nan. You have criticized my leadership long enough. Now you will learn a lesson. If you ever speak against me again, I will beat you till you speak no more. When he was through, he swung away, leaving Miss Nan behind. Chandra could hear her crying, but she didn't move. After all, what could she do to help? If she moved, she might well be eaten. Did apes eat chameleons? Well, it was better safe than sorry. But by and by, Miss Nan stopped her crying, and she began to lick her wounds. I'm sorry that you had to witness that, she said in Chandra's direction. I should not have begged for mercy from someone like him. Chandra slowly moved her eyes to try and see to whom she was speaking, but she didn't see anyone. I'm speaking to you, chameleon, she said. Yes, I see you. That's my problem. I see too much sometimes, and then I speak out about it. When Chandra didn't move or respond, the ape said, don't be afraid. I won't harm you. Well, you should not do things to anger others, Chandra said. She was very surprised to hear herself speaking. You should stay very still, as I do, and you should just stay silent. The ape looked at Chandra for a long, measuring moment. Perhaps what you say is true, she said, but I saw an ape doing harm to others. He takes advantage of the weak and the poor and the elderly. His cruelty is legend. To remain silent would have made me feel party to his actions, and that's just not my nature. Chandra was confused. Didn't your people say, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil? You should just close your eyes, cover your ears, and just stay silent. That would be the prudent thing to do. In spite of her wounds, Nan laughed. A fine picture I'd make sitting there like that. Your speaking up didn't help anyone, Chandra argued. All it did was bring you pain. The ape laughed. Well, there's truth in what you say. Unfortunately, I can't do as you do. I must return to my fellows and do my best to stop that evil one in any small way that I'm able, and I'll return to free his slaves and tend to the sick. Come with me, she urged. I need someone who can blend in the way you do. You can watch my back. You could just sit and watch out for him coming, and then you could warn me. For the first time in her life, Chandra was in a quandary over what to do. She desperately wanted to follow Miss Nan and see that she remained well. Of course, Chandra was terribly afraid and unsure. Well, your cause seems just, Chandra said, but I'm only one tiny, tiny creature. There isn't much that I could do to be a big help, Nan smiled and said. It's the size of your ideals, not the being, that makes you great. Just come right on my back. With the quickest of motions she had ever made, Chandra leaped onto Nan's back and she began to think deep, brown thoughts. To Chandra, the ride on Nan's back as she swung from tree to tree was the most thrilling time of her young life. Then they landed in the big tree of exile, and she felt a deep and abiding sorrow. All around her were refugees from the evil king's trees. Tiny faces of the little ones, their eyes dark with fear, peered from behind their mothers. Elders, battered and tired, hunkered in corners. All the young male apes were absent, conscripts to the king's guard. Miss Nan worked quickly. She bandaged some, rocked and consoled others, but mostly she talked. She told them about staying together and never losing hope. She promised them a better life, and she prepared them to flee to freedom. Chandra had not forgotten her job, and when she saw the shadow of the king swinging toward the tree, she warned Nan by tugging hard on her fur. Nan grabbed a sharp stick, and she began to fight against Tarak. Chandra tried to close her eyes and think, brown, 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 brown. It was no use. She looked up at Tarak, and she turned white with fear. One moment, Tarak was fighting the meddlesome little female ape, and the next, he saw a vision. A white creature had reared up on Miss Nan's head. It was terrible to behold. Some sort of white spirit seems to just spring up at the top of Nan's head. Tarak fell back. No, he cried, spare me, oh spirit. Nan paused in mid-strike. Had he gone mad? Then she watched in horror as he grabbed a small child and he held a sharp stick to its head. Go back from whence you came, or I will sacrifice this child, he chattered. It was at that very moment that something inside of Chandra seemed to shift and change. She became furious. She saw red. She felt hot with indignation, and her soul burned for justice. To Tarak's great shock, the creature shifted its appearance. It became red, and it seemed to grow. Its mouth opened, and a long tongue of flame shot out at him. Release that child, Chandra shouted. Release him and be gone, you terrible beast. Tarak's eyes went wide and unfocused with terror. Dragon! He wailed. A tree dragon! Save me! I said, be gone, Chandra cried, and she shot out her long tongue at him again. Well, by now, Miss Nan had recovered her wits enough to realize who the dragon was. It was all she could do, not to cry with relief or to just laugh with joy. Her frightened little friend, always so careful not to make a wrong move, was saving all their lives with her righteous rage. Tarak dropped his weapon and he fled the tree, and he was never heard from again. And to this day, mothers tell their children of Chandra, the great tree dragon. They tell of the day when one tiny creature changed herself and the world around her, all for the better. Warrior princesses are also tree dragons on the inside. If you're watching and you liked that story, I hope you will make a donation through PayPal to Kaylee. A Cure for Kaylee at hotmail.com. It's in the description. Now, again, we're going back to these two stories for Kaylee tonight, who has not been watching these. And if you've enjoyed any of the fables, if they've done anything to make you feel better, I hope that you'll help make Kaylee and her family feel better with a small donation, or a large one, feel free. So our second and final story for the night is Heaven's Dust. I wrote this story 16, almost 17 years ago, when a friend of mine had cancer. And I knew, and she knew, that things were going to change very soon. And I was sad, and I was angry, and I was worried, and I was upset. And her name was Betty. And Betty sat me down and she said, I'm not gone, I'm just changing states of being. So Heaven's Dust was for her. Leaf looked out across the broad dawn pink sky and down over the beautiful spring garden. The dewy breeze grazed it and left it shimmering, fluttering. As it moved, Leaf saw all the corners of the garden with its flowers, bushes, trees, and animals. Leaf stretched to catch every sight and sound. It was a new leaf at the top of a very old tree. Leaf adored all of the elements, wind, sun, and rain, but it was mostly in love with the wind. Wind gave it the freedom of motion. Without the breeze, it would never have seen the world below or from side to side. Wind rocked Leaf to sleep and shook it awake. Wind made Leaf dance. Wind whistled haunting tunes through the branches. It whispered, and sometimes it sang. On many days, Wind told Leaf of the places that it had been. All across the river and down to the sea have I been, whispered the wind. On that day, Leaf could even smell the scent of the water and salty places of which the wind spoke. High up the mountains to the very door of heaven today, Wind told, as the fresh, clean smells settled down on Leaf. I have seen where the blue sky ends and the birds cease to wing. I have heard the voice of life itself, and it is so beautiful. Leaf shuddered with the thought of having life speak to it as it did to Wind. When will life speak to me? Leaf asked the wind. The breeze warmed as it blew over Leaf, and Wind said softly, You can hear life's voice in me. Whenever Wind blew past, be it as a breeze or a gale, the little green leaf waved a joyous greeting, like the hand of a happy child waving at a loved one. I will love you for all time, Leaf whispered to the moving air around it. I could not be happier. Hearing this promise, Tree shook itself and it emitted a deep chuckle. I'm glad you're happy now, Tree said. Enjoy your youth and beauty while you can, for soon enough you'll be withered and brown, dry as dust, blown away by the same breeze that stirs your heart today. Leaf stiffened at these words. The other leaves said nothing. One or two fell like tears before their time, so stricken were they with sadness. That is not so, Leaf cried. Tree shook again, and it said, Ho, but it is true. I've seen many, many leaves from many, many trees fall and crumble. Your time will come to curse the wind, the way of all things. Wind is old, and you are young, Tree said. Ask the wind sometime. The tree said no more. Leaf tried not to think about what the tree had said. Of course it had heard the stories of how leaves grow old and die, but still, it would never be hateful. That very day, Leaf made a decision. It shouted to the world, I will never hate the wind. I will not give in to fear or unhappiness. Still, the next time the wind came to call, Leaf couldn't help but ask, when I become old, dry, and brittle, will you destroy me the way the tree says you will? Leaf asked. Wind was very silent for a moment. I will not destroy you, dear one, Wind said. All earthly things grow old and die. That is not my doing. Leaf was shaking, and Wind could see the fear beginning to overtake the leaf. Wind added, "Keep your promise not to give in to hate and sorrow, and when the time comes for you to fall, I will be there to catch you. It will be the beginning and not the end for you." Again, Leaf felt strong. "Oh, well, tell me of your travels," Leaf said, and the Wind told and told. Time passed. Leaf grew and changed. At first it became very big and strong, and then as the air grew chill, Leaf began to take on the most magnificent colors. First a yellow cast, then little patches of red and gold began to creep across it. "You are most beautiful today," whispered the Wind. "I think that of all the leaves in the world, there is not one to match you." Leaf shook a bit, knowing full well that many of the others had begun to change and take on different hues, but still those words brought joy. "It is the beginning of the end for all of you, for all of your kind," the tree said. "Soon now, oh, so soon, you'll be nothing but a speck in the dirt." All the other leaves began to droop, and some of them even tumbled from their homes early, as the weight of that unhappy thought dragged them down to the earth. But not Leaf. "Words, words, words," Leaf laughed. "You can't harm me with words. I choose to be happy with my fate. Others choose to be sad. The only one who'll be sad when I am gone is you, old tree. For then, who will you talk to?" Tree shook with frustration and anger. "Oh, you'll see," he bellowed. "Oh, you'll see. You will all be dirt." As days passed, Leaf began to feel tired and thin. The bright colors that covered Leaf darkened to brown, and the leaf knew that its time drew short. But still, it would not be sad, because each day now, Wind told Leaf of the wonderful adventures that were still to come. Just seeing Leaf cling to happiness while all those around her fell made the tree so angry that one day it could stand it no more, and when the leaf came to call, the tree shook and shook and shook for all that it was worth, and the leaf snapped away from its branch, and it began to fall. Tree watched and waited for the leaf to scream or cry, realize what horror had just befallen it. But instead, Tree heard the sound of laughter. One moment, Leaf was held fast to the tree, and the next it was falling, flipping end over end. "I'm flying!" Leaf laughed in pure joy. No, you're falling! You're plunging!" shouted the tree. "I'm soaring! Like a little bird," the leaf sang out. "See how I go?" Leaf felt something lifted up. It was the wind come to keep its promise. "I can't take you very far right now, just to rest on the ground, but no matter what happens, don't be afraid, because I'll return for you." Wind carried Leaf ever so gently to the ground and allowed her to rest there. Leaf could feel the rumble of the roots from the tree as it laughed and said, You see, now you're ready to become like all the others. It's just as I said, just give up now." But Leaf was not stirred to sadness by Tree's words. It didn't answer, but lay quietly looking up at the world. It all looked so different now. After a time, Leaf nodded off to sleep, and a long time passed before it woke. But instead of feeling old, stiff, and papery, Leaf suddenly felt free to move about. She could hear wind singing softly through the trees and felt itself being lifted and spun higher and higher. "Did I not promise all would be well?" crooned the wind. "You have become the dust of the earth, so light and so fine that now I can carry you anywhere with me." And so Wind did carry dust of the leaf and scattered it over fields and onto the backs of birds that flew up to mountains and into streams that led out to oceans. And finally, wind seeded the clouds with the very last tiny grains that were once the leaf, and the leaf came back to earth with rains and snows, and everywhere it fell, the remains of leaf brought a grain of pure joy, a drop of hope, and a touch of love for wind and life. One day in springtime, wind rustled past tree and heard the tree telling all the young leaves about the leaf that had loved the wind and perished in the dirt. Wind came back through the tree singing a breezy tune. Listen, my children, but not to those who tell you that your fate is in the dirt. Listen to me instead. I will tell you the tale of how you will become heaven's dust. Not dead, but free. Believe, and you will never dread. So if you ever wonder which leaves listen to wind and not to the tree, just look up on a stormy day and see which ones wave a joyous greeting and which ones fall down in sorrow. Kaylee is a great tree dragon. Kaylee is a warrior princess. And Kaylee, I suspect, is very, very good friends with the wind. For everyone else out there, please take a moment, if you have PayPal, and please donate to cureforkaylee@hotmail.com. I will be putting a link to her Facebook page in the comments and in the story. I hope you'll share this link tonight, far and wide. Make sure that people see it. Make sure they know that while the rest of the world is battling a lockdown and COVID-19, the bravest little girl in the world is at CHKD. And this one's for her and her mother for Mother's Day. We love you. And we're with you.